This is Unit 1 of my Entrepreneurship class, and Unit 1 is all about the foundations of entrepreneurship. The essential question is, how do entrepreneurs identify problems and turn them into opportunities? And by the end of this unit, my hope is that students will be able to identify key entrepreneurial traits and apply entrepreneurial thinking to analyze real-world problems and opportunities. If you're a teacher out there using these resources, I do provide you with a pacing guide with other relevant information as well. It is worth noting that if you do participate in this, there is one section at the very end. It's a collaborative project that does require you to have some random reusable materials. I usually collect a bunch of cereal boxes and other packaging from food from the grocery store for a few weeks, and then also provide students with paper, markers, scissors, and other things as well. Other than that, it is all totally no prep, hands off, I should say, information that you can pass to your students and they actually enjoy it. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a moment, because it is very collaborative and it is not just sit and get. It is not lecture heavy. It is get into it and get students thinking. So we begin with having a student think about what is a product or service that they could realistically start that people would pay for, and what problem does it solve? I use this all year long in all of my business classes. I share the same commentary that most successful businesses share one thing in common. They solve people's problems at a price that people are willing to pay. And so my students then are tasked in their table groups to turn $100 into $1,000 in 30 days. And I usually limit this to a maximum of 3 students per group. Anything more than that, and you always get a student that is an anchor, or there's just not enough work to be done. So 3 is the maximum. Anything less than that, singles or doubles, also work. And I have them list out a series of steps showing clearly how they would achieve that $1,000 based on that initial $100 investment that they have. So the rules, nothing illegal, no influencer fantasy. It has to be realistic and it needs to solve a problem, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about, solving problems. And the goal, turn that $100 into $1,000. I then give students an example right here. And the idea is that there are many people in this area that are elderly and might need help carrying their trash cans to and from the front of their home up to the back to wherever it is that they store their trash, waste, recycling, and green waste, back up to their house. And then in addition to that, also cleaning them and sanitizing so that these cans are hygienic of sorts. And so the idea is trash, recycling, and green waste can cleaning service, as well as bringing them back up to the home. And so step 1, buy the cleaning supplies and also create some flyers. Step 2, hand out those flyers and then also post on Nextdoor app. Charge $20 and get 13 customers. Offer weekly service at a discount so that you can set up that subscription and that repetitive basis so that you can make predictions as to how much income you can make each week, and then potentially decide if you need to hire people. And at $20 times 13 clients times 4 weeks, that's $1,060. That is the opening to get us to start thinking about what is an entrepreneur. And so by definition, an entrepreneur is someone who identifies a problem or opportunity and creates a solution that delivers value. The key idea is this: entrepreneurship is about problem solving, not just starting a business. And so as students start to think about problem solving and not just thinking, all right, I need to come up with this brilliant idea, I want them to start thinking about what businesses or products have declined or disappeared in their lifetime and why. Not necessarily as to why they just disappeared, but more so what replaced them. And so the business that replaced those businesses that are no longer with us were either innovative, or they did something that was disruptive to the general industry, or they did something significant that switched it up to where people chose to do the latter of the newer alternative that is out there. So for example, Blockbuster was ousted by Netflix. Taxis are disappearing because of ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft and whatnot. CDs, iPods, disappearing because of music streaming, instant access, portability, usually based off of your phone. Paper maps are now being replaced by GPS, global positioning systems. So what is the problem that the new business solves better? And then I want them to really think about it and how a new solution delivers more value, and customers will change their behavior based on this new solution. This is the whole concept of innovation. And innovation is the process of improving or creating products, services, or processes to solve problems more effectively and deliver greater value to the end user. And the key idea is this: innovation doesn't always mean that you need to invent something. It doesn't need to be brand new. You don't need to come up with the latest and greatest new thing. It could also just improve convenience, reduce cost, reduce time, increase the quality or access to whatever that thing is. Think, for example, Starbucks mobile ordering. You have the ability to access Starbucks without the line. You can put in your order and then show up and pick it up. And this applies to just about any fast food in 2026 when I'm recording this right now. Solve an unmet need better than it was before. Why does innovation matter? It matters because the businesses that replace others are usually going to be more innovative because they deliver greater value. And so the star show of where this value shows up every single year, often, to the best of my knowledge, it's always in January in Las Vegas at what's called the Consumer Electronics Show. And this is the limelight. This is where all of the innovators, all of the tech disruptors, everybody that's anybody in the world of innovation is showing up. CES is an event where companies and entrepreneurs showcase their new and improved technologies and solutions to problems, and it happens every January. CES matters to entrepreneurship because it highlights how entrepreneurs use innovation to solve problems and create value in different ways. The key takeaway I'm hoping for my students to get from this slide is that by watching information about CES, they can show that innovation is ongoing and driven by entrepreneurs responding to changing needs and opportunities. Many of these CES products succeed not because they're new, but because they solve a problem better than whatever it is that their predecessor used to do. I then show them the 2025 product categories for CES, and I will update this next year. It's 2026 right now. I'm leaving this up here, and then in 2027, I'll update it to 2026. If you're one of my teachers out there purchasing these slides, do just wait. Give me about a year, and I'll get it up there. So you can see all of the information, the innovation in gadgets, tech and AI announcements, smart home and displays. I have my students look through this. Which category shows the strongest opportunity for entrepreneurs and why? I then take them to a video link that shows them innovation in the real world. It goes on a tour of CES in real time at the time that it was being filmed. And they watch the video looking for examples of innovation. They are not evaluating how cool the product is, but focusing on value. So as they watch, right, like there's going to be flashy things that are like, whoa, that's cool, I want that. But realistically, what is the problem that's being solved? Who is the target consumer? And then how does the product improve on an existing solution? And with that information, now that we have the idea of innovation in our head, we need to think about that one phrase I used earlier, where most successful businesses share one thing in common. They solve people's problems at a price that people are willing to pay. And if my students can start to or stop thinking about what is a solution out there, but instead focus on what are problems that exist and what are solutions that I can do to solve that problem to then ultimately create value for a consumer. For an example, many homeowners sell their homes, struggle to find reliable help for small home repairs prior to the sale. Why is this a real problem? Well, small jobs are often ignored by contractors. Homeowners might lack the time, the tools, or the skills, and these problems create stress but don't justify large renovation projects. My goal with this slide is to bring it to be more user-friendly, where it's not you have to create the next, genie in a bottle, but rather something they could actually start and do. So a solution could potentially be a handyman service that partners directly with real estate agents. This is actually something that I used to do. In fact, if you click on that video, it'll take you to a brief video overview of the website of my business that I've since closed. But why people would actually pay for that service is because it saved them time, reduced frustration, and it provided convenience and peace of mind without needing to wait for a general contractor to come in. Of course, there were certain laws and parameters around what it is that I could and could not do as a handyman in this situation, but these are things that you can adapt to and solve people's problems with some kind of a solution creating value. I then have my students start to think, what is a problem that they notice that people complain about but don't always fix? Focus on everyday problems, not school rules or personal preferences, but actual real problems that you see. We start thinking about, well, how do entrepreneurs think? And what is it that they do different than the common person or employee specifically? Neither way of thinking is wrong if you're an employee or an entrepreneur, but they lead to different outcomes. For example, employee thinking might be, how much do I get paid to do this task? How long will it take? And what task am I assigned? Versus an entrepreneur might think, what is the problem? Who will pay to solve it? And how can this repeat or scale? Meaning, how can I make it repeatable and bigger and hire people to start doing this and then continue to build upon this problem with my solution? And so entrepreneurship really starts here. As students go about their daily tasks, I ask them to take note and notice problems that other people are ignoring. Ask who would pay to solve them. Look for simple, repeatable solutions. And the key takeaway is that entrepreneurship isn't about ideas, it's about noticing problems and acting. Entrepreneurship is not just a mindset, it can be measurable as well. People become entrepreneurs for various different reasons. We're going to use a little bit of data in the next few slides to understand who becomes one, why, and what it actually takes. So what data tells us about entrepreneurship? Who becomes an entrepreneur? Why they start businesses? When are people most likely to start? And what increases the odds of success? Who becomes an entrepreneur? Well, 49.3% of business owners are first timers. 35.9 had prior businesses before. That's from the US Census Bureau. Entrepreneurs come from all different income levels. Many start after working for somebody else. They are not born, they are developed. What are some of the reasons that you think people start a business? This gets students to start thinking. I then ask them, why do people start a business in the first place? Some data tells us that 64% of small business owners say being their own boss and increasing income were very important reasons for starting. So there's income opportunity, control over work and independence, flexibility and life fit, solving a problem or unmet need, and desire to be your own boss. When are people likely to start their own business? Well, data tells us that it's usually early to mid-career, roughly around 25 to 44, and after working for somebody else during life or career transitions, and they might identify an unmet need. I asked my students, could they see themselves as an entrepreneur? Based on everything that we've discussed so far, which reasons for starting a business would appeal to them? What challenges might hold you back? I then have my students do an entrepreneurial self-assessment, which is linked in here in the notes, and I have them take 5 minutes to complete the questionnaire, view the unpaid sample results upon completion. There is a paid option with this link. Please use the free one. And all of this is linked in the guided notes that students have access to follow along throughout this unit as well. If you knew you couldn't fail, what type of business would you start and why? I give my students a few minutes to think about this. In fact, I'll even have them list out a bunch of different things because this is something they're passionate about, not necessarily something that makes them a ton of money, but rather something that is their passion project. You know you can't fail doing this. This is what you enjoy. This is what you love. What would that be? And so I have them start thinking like an entrepreneur. And I have them begin by watching a Shark Tank best moments of video. And so it gives them a clip. And with that clip, they are then able to get some thinking flowing through their head about entrepreneurial opportunities, because the next slide is the entrepreneurial product pitch at the end of the unit, where students will work in groups, again, using reusable objects that I store. And this takes me about 3 weeks roughly of preparation, where I save, like I said earlier in this video, I save boxes, I save other types of equipment, popsicle sticks, not like eaten ones, but fresh ones, clean ones, right? New ones, any type of new box of straws. I will have tape as well, and I'll give them construction paper and colored paper and other things that they need, all the markers and colored pencils. And then they need to actually create a prototype of a new type of a product that is innovative and deliver a digital or written fictitious product pitch. And everybody needs to speak. The pitch needs to include an introduction, marketing, conclusion, and it can't be longer than a single period. So I usually use this in a full day. This whole assignment right here is one full day. Folks, I appreciate your attention to this. I do hope that it saves you some time at some point or another. If you are using these resources via my Teachers Pay Teachers, I would certainly appreciate your review as it helps me continue to offer these services. And I appreciate you as well for teaching what I believe to be the most valuable classes on campus.